Welcome to LED. This is Leadership with Ed. I am Ed McGill, co-founder and partner of McGill Jungie Wealth Management. And I've been on this, really a long journey over the years of understanding leadership, not only for my own development and leading the firm here, but also just very intrigued by others' leadership skills, what's influenced them, what's shaped them, and hopefully for our audience, being able to provide some nuggets that help them in their own leadership skills. And so we're fortunate today, LED has a special guest, our first NCAA national champion ever on LED. We have Josh Terrell. And so welcome, Josh. We'll let you introduce yourself here in a minute. But first, I just wanted to thank everyone that's joined us in this inaugural season of LED. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And then these podcasts drop every other Wednesday, just bright and early in the morning, Wednesday a.m., And Josh, welcome to LED, my friend.
Hey, Ed, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor to be on. When I initially received the invitation to come chat, it was an easy heck yeah, just because there's never any dull moments with you or you and the team, or moments where I'll laugh or some type of hug. So excited to just kind of jam and have a conversation with you.
I love that. We're going to jam, have fun, do a lot of laughing. And you know, Josh, I've just found your background story so people can learn a little bit more about you in terms of how does someone go from Chicago to the University of Dubuque to Des Moines, Iowa. Just tell us a little bit about your story, how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up, born and raised, first half of my schooling anyway, in south side of Chicago, so that's where a lot of my family resides. Up through about fifth grade, things got pretty dicey in terms of the elevation of crime there in Chicago, and so my mom really wanted to get us five out and figure out how we can get a better opportunity to do something with our lives. And so we found this little place called Round Lake, Illinois. My aunt had lived there, and so we packed up what we had and headed up north. And at that point too, Ed, it was a really big culture shock. So, and
I bet you load up the family truckster. There's five plus your mom in there, and you go to Round Lake, Illinois.
Yeah, up to Round Lake. So up through that point, you know, everybody looked like me. I may have seen one other race outside of the black community, and so when I get to Round Lake, I'm like, holy cow, where am I, and what's going on, and what do I do next? And so we're immediately kind of catapulted into a melting pot, and it just shaped up to be really cool for a lot of good reasons. But you know, because of that, I had an opportunity to get in the sport of wrestling, and that became my entryway to college, and eventually my pathway to Iowa via University of Dubuque. And 2018, because of a career move, got here to the Des Moines area. So it's kind of a wonky story, but and I always call it a God story too, because you can't make the steps up, and some of them seem illogical, but it all happened for just the right reasons. So we're Iowans now. We're glad to be here.
Yep, you and Tina and the four kids. Josh has a daughter named Olive, and I always love that then too. That's just always been fun to hear. But when you think of that first move, your mom really was probably your first leader and mentor that you saw. I mean, that couldn't have been easy for her at that time as well either, was it?
No, it wasn't at all. You know, we grew up without a dad in the household, and so we had this kind of community system, the village to raise children, and so we were moving away from that, right? Grandparents and all, and my mom just had foresight, to your point, as a leader, and in terms of what could be for us, and so. I watched her make a lot of sacrifices, uprooting her life, what she'd done or what she'd known, her comfort to look out for us.
Outside the comfort level.
Yeah, yeah. So, she is certainly one of my heroes.
Oh, what an awesome testament. When you got to Dubuque to do wrestling, I found it interesting. You said one of your best moments while there was not the year you won the NCAA championships, but the year you won third. I think that set the stage for development. Tell me a little bit about wrestling in college and how that shaped you in terms of just the skill sets that now you take as a leader in the community as a business owner.
Yeah. So I'll walk back just a second to give some context, and that really is my initial heart was a basketball player. So in Chicago, I grew up during the Michael Jordan era, and I was a self-proclaimed hooper. And so when we got to Round Lake, this small little coach, his name's Coach Job, still a great mentor of mine today. He said, "Hey, I don't think you'll be uh, going to the NBA. You're probably not going to be over 5'9", and which was
I was
true."
gonna say you can't tell this on Zoom, but yeah, Josh is not looking like an NBA power forward. If we had the full length Josh in here,
Yeah, that I would say it's 100% correct. And, he gave me these compelling reasons to come out and what could be, and I was like, I don't think so, right? But over the next 2 weeks, as football was ending, I still don't know why I made the decision, but I did to go out for wrestling, and it changed my life, right? So that community that we moved from in Chicago was now being reestablished in the form of wrestling, and they did a lot of great things for my family and I. And so that again became my entryway. And so right out of high school, I went to Northern Illinois University to compete for a year. I had a great redshirt year there, and because of some movement and coaching shakeouts, it was just time to look for somewhere else. And so I got to Dubuque, Iowa, and ran into this interesting guy. His name's John McGovern. He's a legend if anybody knows anything about wrestling, but really gravitated towards him, and he embodies leadership and leadership principles and just a servant's heart. And so I stayed there because of that. And my focus to your point in question was always be a national champion, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. But things would happen, right? You take your lumps, you lose, and so year 1, I took 4th place, and so I lost my last match. Year 2, I took 6th place, and I lost my last 2 matches. And so year 3, I lost my first match of the first round as the first seed, and so I had to win 5 matches to climb back, and that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done because you have all these emotions welling up in you from
yeah, especially after that first one, where just the
yeah.
initial God, how'd that happen? Why? Oh, now I got to climb 5 matches back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was electrifying. So this is kind of the humor baked inside of that too. So I'm winning this match, and the guy gets a reversal, and he's in position to pin me, and I hear the announcer say, "Ladies and gentlemen, if you turn your attention to mat 1, Justin, whatever his last name is, has Josh Terrell on his back for a fall," and the place goes wild. And I mean, I just wanted to crawl under a mat. I'm like, what is happening? But so emotions start welling up, and my mom and grandma would always say, sometimes you have to put your feelings under your feet and keep moving. And so we took it match by match, and I remember after the 3rd place match, I mean, my emotions just came unglued from having to just kind of keep everything bottled up and finish through adversity. And so I learned a valuable lesson about life, through wrestling, and still am. But year 4, I would say it eclipsed at least mentally for me, my national championship, because I felt like I had already done hard in the sport, and whatever took place next, I was going to be prepared for it.
God, how interesting that. Hopefully everyone heard what Josh just said there, that he felt he got more, not only just life lessons, maybe even more joy in the long run of how you battled back from being third or getting third, and also just coming up through that. I think maybe you call it the consolation kind of bracket, on that than the actual national championship year. That was what happened the year before allowed, that national championship year to happen. So that's pretty interesting that from a life standpoint, that third year had a bigger impact than the fourth year, it sounds like.
Absolutely, absolutely. I reflect on that often because life's full of bumps in the roads and ups and downs, and we still got to keep moving. And so in the business community or in your household or wherever you are, you're going to encounter some form of suck. And so how we handle adversity just really matters.
And probably like as a wrestler, you always knew at some point you were going to be on your back and in scramble mode. And in life, there are many, many times that you're going to be on your back and in scramble mode on that. Tell me a little bit more about John McGovern. When you said that he was one of the best leaders, that shaped you early, what made him a great leader if you were to pinpoint a couple different things about him?
Yeah, I just watched it accumulate over the first couple of years when I was there. I watched him literally give the shoes off of his feet so that a kid could go out and, run to get his weight down the night before competition. I watched him spend dollars for kids that didn't have food, or, he came in with me and asked me to come in with me at 6 a.m. To just really pour and investing into me to get better. We didn't have a lot of resources from a program standpoint, and he just figured out a way to glue it together and shielded us from the things we couldn't control so that we could focus on being great. And so he talked about it all the time, but then we got a chance to watch him do it, right? So there's some things that are taught and caught, and he just did a great job of blending that, and yeah, he lived it, and he lives it today. So if you look him up on anywhere on the internet, he's got a heck of a legacy of doing it, and so now I understand why, right? Why he was a hammer. By the way, he's early 50s, mid 50s, and he could still take me today, Ed. He's I don't know what it is that's not like. He's just an absolute hammer.
Oh, I love that. And then you think about the legacy that he's still impacting. And then, your last 2 years, you were getting your MBA. So it was the first year of your MBA that you won the NCAA. The next year, you were a grad assistant. How did you move from leadership, as a team member and, someone that obviously had great success that last year, to the leadership and mentoring and coaching, kids or, peers, that were on your team the year before? How big a transition was that?
It was a big transition for me. So it wasn't an easy one, one that I struggled with, because I'm at the competition point. I'm used to being the guy, hey, I can go out and control this. I can do this, right? This depends on me. And when you're coaching, so much of it is about influence, right? And so, you're gaining influence and figuring out a way to garner that and foster that and, grow loyalty. And then what I know today, you're building systems around that to really help these kids be successful. And so it was a hard transition figuring out how to transfer what I know and what I had to these kids with varying results that they wanted to achieve or goals that they had, and how to speak to one differently than the other. And so I had to take a step back and really do some more observation, some more learning, because I think the natural thought process is, hey, I've done it, I can go do it on any other side, and that just wasn't true.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's probably very humbling, took you outside your comfort level, and then set the stage for some of the leadership, which we'll be talking about here next on that. We did have a write-in question. Actually, I'm making this up, but I'm curious, how long would it take you to pin me today? Could I last a minute, 30 seconds? When we first saw each other, did you think I can easily take this guy, or what was kind of your thought process?
No, I mean you're put together. So if I size people up, which I often do, I mean, what are you, 6'2",
Because you never know when
6'3"?
you got to throw down, right? Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
6'2".
you never know. You have to have a plan of attack. You got to be prepared. So, I mean, you're a tall guy put together, so I have to figure out a double leg or something. Ankle pick. I can't go upper body with you. Maybe a little bit much, but I would say. I would say out of courtesy, 2 minutes, Ed. I would make sure it's a good show.
It'd be one of those ones where he'd let me back up and then I'd take me down again, where he's just racking up points. He's going for the technical fall. Let me maintain a little bit of dignity before he just, we hear that backflip. Okay, that's right. 2 minutes. I like that. Then, it was interesting as you mentioned about that move in high school or as you were growing up and going from a African American community to where more of a melting pot in Des Moines. You were part of the original group, and you're still the president of Black Excellence of Iowa, which is something that McGill Jungie actually has spent time sponsoring and pouring into and helping, and especially Trent Burley on our team that has just loved what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about Black Excellence, because it's separate from your regular day job, and maybe some of the challenges, hurdles, as an African-American business owner, and what your peers are telling you.
Yeah, so that's actually a natural segue from wrestling, because when we had moved to Round Lake and through my early, collegiate career in Iowa, I spent so much time with what I call the blinders, right? I just wanted to focus on what I could control, and I started to learn I could control more of that, and I could be good at some things and have some success. And so that carried over to early on in my career in sales, and I worked hard, I got out, and, I did the things that needed to be done, and I just focused on staying in my lane, right? So I blocked out all of the noise, the things that I saw and heard, and just really felt insulated. And then in 2020, those walls and blinders kind of came crashing down, right? When you look at the world around you, there's the George Floyd, right? There were all kinds of things that was happening at that point. And so it really kind of caused me to break down a little bit and, look at the world around me and figure out, what am I doing with my influence today to reach back and give back.
I like that.
And we enjoy being part of just community and social engagement, but I really felt a call and an obligation to go back and serve the Black community, right? And so our vision that we developed is that Black is represented well in the boardroom, classroom, and living room of our radius, right? And so that really encompassed the spectrum of life for where just about everybody is, and helps us mobilize to figure out what's our work to do. And so, yeah, it was one of those things. Passion can be derived in a few different ways. It's a passion of mine, and sometimes passions come from the things that break your heart, right? And that you want to go and contribute to or impact or help lead. And so that's what that's meant for me and for some of the folks that have rolled their sleeves up, for some of the organizations that we've partnered with, like you guys, and so much more.
Yeah, and have you found, and hopefully if you're enjoying some of the leadership guidance and tips today, so make sure you're liking and subscribing. But Josh, have you found that it's more elevating the community so they know what's possible? Is it actually helping in job development and creation? Is it, if you were to kind of boil down the two or three things, or is it more just a community where the luncheons and breakfasts and different events you have, it is kind of a melting pot of people that are there? But what would you say is some of the arching principles that you're trying to help get out there?
Yeah, good question. So if I were to boil it down, I would say our main prerogative is to bridge the Black community to the greater community, right? And with namely with relationships and resources. So that could mean visibility to different opportunities, maybe career, maybe it's post-secondary for kiddos that are leaving high school. right? What's available, who's where, and then kind of the relationship piece, right? So how do we help people's circles get smaller, introduce them to the folks that are in alignment with, or maybe that can impact or help their dream or their goal. And we have a few different vehicles for that, but that's really our main priority, is to bridge that gap to resources and relationships.
It's interesting with Northwestern Mutual, which is our primary affiliate, where they have their SAR fund, and when you look at just investments in the African American businesses, it's access. It's where you went to college. It's who are the relationships with, and connections, and people knowing. It's still just, hey, I know this person and I know this person, and so many of their dollars have gone just to those startups, and given them access to capital, that if you're not aware of that problem, then you just don't know it exists, because the great ideas are great ideas. I mean, there's so many cool things happening and going on, but if you don't have the connections, the resources, the money, and with so many startups, it's just, can you keep surviving long enough to get to that piece? And too, so I love hearing that about relationships and resources. I also found too, Josh, I'd be curious on this, with Trent, that's been our kind of liaison with your firm, and then just the way I grew up. I think when you play, especially college athletics, the whole race thing is really minimized. At least that's what I found. It really was when you were in the huddle. Now, obviously in the wrestling world, it's more one-on-one and not necessarily huddles, but on the football field, it was just more who was committed, who was giving their all, who could you count on in the fourth quarter. The football field to me was so awesome, because it's just really bringing people together for that common goal and good. So it's been very easy for me just to interchange and think it's more about, if that person's excellent, I want to help them. If they're a good person, I want to help them. Have you found some of those similarities in wrestling to business, or have you found that with Black Excellence, there still are a number of roadblocks or hurdles to get into the right relationships and stuff? I don't know if that made sense at all. It's just, I think of athletics was great because you just don't see a lot of the problems. If everyone just did athletics at some point in their life, I think a lot of the country's problems would be solved.
Yeah, that's a great analogy or comparison, because there's mission alignment, and everybody.
Oh, I love that, mission alignment.
Yeah, everybody cares about the same thing, just about in the same way, and everybody's a part of that. And so I would say even a step further, you get to appreciate just the role clarity or the specifics that people play, right? And so that looks like diversity, because some people are good at different things. And not that you necessarily ignore the color of their skin, but more so to be able to appreciate that, right? So, hey, JT's from Chicago, so he brings this kind of thought process, or here's how he thinks about things and looks at things, and so that's what makes our team great. Or, Ed's from here, here's how his mind works, right? He loves numbers, right? So he's gonna make the X's and O's work. And so we get a chance to really appreciate that mission alignment and goal orientation by just knowing a lot more about our teammates. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful picture of what we're looking to create, and bridging that gap into the workplace. Or, we run into so many students that just don't feel they see that here, that type of representation. So they say, hey, I want to move to Atlanta, or I want to move to Chicago or Texas, because there's nothing here. And I look around and I'm like, that's certainly not true. And so what do we need to do to just kind of create some awareness, some visibility, to reshape, what they see, to change perspectives? And we're really optimistic about that. The other thing I'd say is we've been really just pleased and enthused about the response from the greater business community and what we're looking to do. Especially in a world where DEI has different connotations or is attacked. We've just pledged to be very specific and focused on what's ours to do and what we can control and how that really impacts everybody positively, right? Without any political agenda or affiliation or flag. And so it keeps things clear, it keeps things concise, and a lot of people can get behind it.
No, that's awesome. And hopefully everyone wrote down mission alignment. And even in a one-on-one sport like wrestling, you still had team competition. So you still had the team score. And so how you won, or trying to make sure you weren't one of the ones that did get the technical fault against them. You had the role clarity. That was awesome, because I think too in sports, like if we needed a tight end or we needed a right tackle, it was really like, okay, well, who's going to be the best tight end for the type of offense we're running? And I think always the kids, always knew who were the best kids to play. Even when I coached youth football, I remember I had a parent that was a little upset that his son wasn't playing running back as much as he should, like not at all. And I had 3 of the kids in the car. We were just driving home from practice once, and I said, hey, if you were to rank our running backs in what order, where would you put them? And it was exactly, fortunate, it was how I was thinking. And I said, well, what about such and such? And they're like, yeah, he's a great kid, coach, but he's just not that good. Like, I mean, they knew, and that's not something I could relay to the dad at that point. Hey, 3 kids in my car. But again, I think in companies as well as on the athletic field, that mission alignment of we want to win and dominate our opponent, that the kids and know who should be on the field. If anyone does get a chance, if you want to Google Gene Stallings, The Huddle, he was an old Alabama coach that talks about the beauty of the huddle, and that if everyone in America ever was in a huddle, none of these problems would exist that happen today. As we shift gears in the last part, what are some of the, you're running companies now, so you've built a successful business yourself. What's your leadership style, strength, and where do you still need to grow, Josh?
Yeah, great question. I would say my leadership strength, and then I have what I call a superpower. My leadership strengths are probably attraction and influence. So I'm decent at attracting people to a vision, and influencing them and enrolling them to really get behind it, right? So I really try to study people and figure out how I can be a better listener and better servant leader. And I would say my superpower in it is I can teach folks in my business how to be better than me, quicker than me, right? And so I try to have an abundance mindset, so that people know, hey, the water's warm, jump in if you want, to do this or that, or roll, or even prepare you for something else that maybe you want to do or own and operate in the future. Like, we can do that. And if I can't get it all done with you, I can help you find the resources. And so we try to be people focused, and our purpose statement is we want to change the way people see their lives through employment with us, right? And so, question everything. Are you in the right space? Is this help shape your identity? Is this meaningful work for you? Is this conducive to living a work-life integrated family type of schedule? And so we really want the best, and and that means I have to continue to learn. And people are also interesting too, right? But it keeps me on my toes and figuring out how to bring out the best in them.
Who taught you the term superpower, or is that from a book you read of trying to identify what is your superpower, what's your thing that you're best at?
I don't know. I've done some coaching engagements throughout my career, and so I wrote down a lot of stuff, and some things I can give credit back to, or some things are just kind of scrambled.
Yeah, that just resonated where you're like, oh, superpower. Because, I love that you said, here's my strength, the attraction and influence. And if you ever do get the opportunity to meet Josh, you will see that. It's just a warm, engaging openness, great smile, fun to be around. You exude a lot of positivity and confidence. I'm curious, when you said you study people or watch people, I find it interesting watching how people engage others, how they walk, how they carry themselves. You can see, like that, what we call confidently humble, kind of the, yeah, I did win the NCAA. I'm a good athlete. I'm a good business owner, but I'm also humble enough to know that, there's a ton to learn. I want to be a good person and stuff. So you do walk with confidence, and you're just fun to have in a room. And hopefully everyone wrote that down. Just, if someone were to ask you what was your strengths, that you'd be able to identify those. And then on a second note, if someone said, what is your superpower? What are you doing better than anyone else at your company? And if you can identify that, if you're an employee, that helps you always be valuable to the company, but then also, always keep elevating up there. And then Josh, when you said, helping people go faster and better than where you were, that also has to come from a low ego, or just you're comfortable with yourself. Because sometimes people would think, if I train this person or develop this person or get them ahead of me, that can feel like it's taking something from you. Or I don't know if I'm saying that correctly or not. Or what if they take over the company? Or what if they leave? What if they do this? Is that some of that mental part then too, of just being confident in your own abilities?
Yeah, going back to the shift and the question you asked, how did I translate from being a competitor to a coach? That was one of the things that, I continue to reflect and look back on. And, you can't do it for people, but if you help everybody do it well, everybody wins, right? And everybody can win big. And so, it doesn't matter whose role it is or where they are. I think we should all be open to making sure that we work ourselves out of a job, because then the world's becoming a better place. The organization is serving more folks, and we're working in another way to say superhero or superpower is zone of genius, right? When we find our zones of genius, that's where you're great, right? And we see that played out in a lot of different applications. And so I just try to hone in on that. And I don't always get it right. I always say I can spend the most disciplined time, and I know how to waste time with the best of them too, right? I know how to go out and have some fun. But we really try to hone in on that and be disciplined to that and do it as best as I can.
Well, that is awesome. Let's end with that one, the zone of genius. Some other just great takeaways. Hopefully everyone can picture me in a headlock from Josh, trying to survive that 2-minute piece. I love the mission alignment, the role clarity, and then just understanding your strengths and your superpowers. And then just for Black excellence, that relationships and resources. Always be cognizant of people around you. Who can you impact and give them access to your network, to relationships that you do just because it's the right thing to do, not because there's any other benefit. I found that when you're always doing good things just take care of themselves, Josh, in the long run. So thank you so much for being on here today. Always enjoy seeing you and your smile, and appreciate you taking some time today.
Man, the pleasure was all mine. I look forward to more conversations, on or offline. Let's just do it.
That's what he said. Well, that's all for now. Great having Josh as our guest. And thanks for joining us today. I'm Ed McGill, signing off for Leadership with Ed. Have a great day, everyone.